Picture this. It's 1914, and a massive German army is just miles from capturing Paris. I mean, the French government has already skipped town. It really looks like the war is over before it's even truly begun. But then, an unexpected turn of events on the Marne River would not only save the city, but it would change the future of warfare forever.
Right? It sounds like something straight out of a movie. A bunch of city taxis going up against one of the most powerful armies in the world. But this actually happened, and it was a crucial part of the story. We're going to dive into how this one, kind of strange detail became a symbol of a massive turning point in World War I.
You know, in the summer of 1914, when World War I kicked off, pretty much everyone thought it would be a short, exciting adventure. Soldiers marched off expecting to be home in a few months, definitely by Christmas. Nobody, and I mean nobody, could have imagined the 4 years of sheer brutality that were actually ahead. So Germany had this huge strategic problem. They were stuck between two enemies, France in the west and Russia in the east, a war on two fronts. Their solution was something called the Schlieffen Plan. The whole idea was built on one thing: speed. They figured Russia would take forever to get its huge army ready, so they planned to throw everything they had at France and score a quick knockout. So, how were they going to pull this off? Well, the plan was like a 3-step blitz. First, they'd smash through neutral Belgium to get around all of France's main defenses. Second, they'd swing around, surround Paris, and crush the French army in just 6 weeks. And third, they'd use their amazing railway system to ship the entire army east to deal with Russia. It was incredibly ambitious and super risky.
And you know what? At first, it worked shockingly well. In August of 1914, the German armies seemed completely unstoppable. They just poured through Belgium and northern France, pushing the French and British armies back and back in a long, desperate retreat. A German victory looked like it was just days away.
Can you even imagine that? 30 miles. The Eiffel Tower was almost within sight of the German front lines. The French government was so freaked out, they literally packed their bags and fled the city for Bordeaux. It seriously looked like the Schlieffen Plan was a total success, and the war was about to be over. But here's where things started to go wrong for them. The German soldiers had been marching and fighting nonstop for weeks on end. They were totally exhausted. And maybe even more important, their supply lines, all the trucks and carts bringing them food, water, and bullets, were struggling to keep up with the fast pace. And this brings us to a super important idea in any war: logistics. Think of logistics as the lifeblood of an army. Without a constant flow of all that stuff, food, ammo, fuel, an army just grinds to a halt. It doesn't matter how tough your soldiers are. The Germans were moving so fast that their own supply network was basically snapping behind them.
So just when it seemed like all hope was lost for France, the German commanders made one critical mistake. One of their lead armies, thinking the French were totally beaten, turned southeast to chase them down, instead of continuing to circle Paris like the plan said. And in doing so, they exposed their entire side to the defenders of Paris. It was the one opening the Allies had been desperately hoping for.
Let's break down that mistake. In military talk, the side of an army is called its flank, and it's the most vulnerable spot. An attack on the flank is like getting a surprise punch from the side when you're not looking. By turning, the German army basically left its chin wide open, and the French were about to swing. The French commander, General Joffre, saw this opening immediately, and he made an incredibly gutsy call. He declared that the long retreat was over. He ordered his exhausted, beaten-down troops to turn around and attack right then and there. This was the moment everything changed. But there was a huge problem. They needed to get fresh soldiers to the front line, and they needed them there like yesterday. So the military governor of Paris came up with this brilliant, almost crazy idea. Let's use the city's taxis. About 600 of Paris's famous Renault cabs were rounded up to shuttle thousands of soldiers straight into the battle. Now, these taxis moved about 6,000 soldiers. And let's be real, in a battle with millions of men, that number isn't a game changer by itself. But that wasn't the point. Its symbolic impact was enormous. It was this powerful image of the entire nation, civilians and soldiers, working together to save their capital. It gave everyone a massive morale boost right when they needed it most. The combined French and British counterattack slammed into that exposed German flank, and it hit them hard. What had been this unstoppable German advance just days before suddenly turned into chaos. Their whole grand plan for a quick victory just started to fall apart. And here's where the battle was really decided. The Allied attack actually pushed two of the German armies apart from each other, creating this massive 30-mile gap in their front line. British and French soldiers immediately started pouring into that space, which put them in a position to attack both German armies from the side and rear. The German high command, who were miles away from the battle, were getting confusing reports. They finally sent an officer to the front to see what was really going on, and he realized the danger was extreme. The German armies were at risk of being completely surrounded and destroyed. There was only one option left: retreat. So, for the very first time in the war, the seemingly invincible German army was forced to fall back. They retreated about 40 miles north until they reached some high ground behind the Aisne River, and right there, to protect themselves from the Allied armies chasing them, they started to dig. And that one simple act, digging into the earth for protection, would have consequences no one could have predicted. It marked the end of the fast, mobile war that everyone expected, and the beginning of something new, something static, and something absolutely horrific. And that new thing, of course, was trench warfare. Both sides dug these huge, complex networks of trenches, protected by machine guns and barbed wire. And for the next 4 years, this is where the war would be fought. Millions of men living and dying in mud and misery, often fighting over just a few feet of ground. I mean, just look at how drastically things changed. In August, you had a war of fast movement, rapid advances across open country. By October, it was a total stalemate, deep trenches, barbed wire, and no movement. The hope for a quick victory was completely dead, replaced by this slow, grinding war of attrition. And the human cost of this single battle was just unbelievable. In about 1 week of fighting, the total number of casualties that soldiers killed, wounded, or missing hit 500,000, 500,000. It was a terrifying preview of the industrial-scale killing that would define the rest of the war. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the Battle of the Marne absolutely saved Paris. It shattered Germany's dream of a quick victory, but it didn't win the war. In a way, it did the opposite. It locked both sides into this deadly embrace that would chew up an entire generation and last for 4 more terrible years. And that really leaves us with a tough question, doesn't it? Should we see the miracle on the Marne as this amazing victory that saved France? Or was it actually the event that doomed Europe to a much longer and more destructive tragedy? It's a complicated legacy, and it's something people are still debating to this day.